Well, approximately 100% jump in the price of cooking gas when compared to December 2020, which is about 10 months ago, has been a subject of discussion recently, especially as the federal government begins the implementation of a 7.5% tax on imported liquefied petroleum gas. Well, let's get the views of Mr. Nuhu Yakubu. Mr. Yakubu is the Group CEO, Bana Energy Limited, and the President of Nigeria Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association. Good to have you on the show, Mr. Yakubu. So what's going on?
Good morning.
What's going on? Why are people putting us in this?
I don't know.
100%. Are we not going to cook anymore?
It's a cocktail of issues.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think largely the price jump you see is a function of foreign exchange demand-supply factors. Because as you know, Nigeria's LPG is pricing is reference to foreign trading platforms. And so when there's a shift in, when there's movement in such foreign trading indexes, you tend to see it impacting on Nigeria's domestic pricing. But on top of that, you then have the very, very tight supply situation of the foreign exchange now, which is now exacerbating the local pricing. Now, why so? Because the total demand consumption in Nigeria today is largely supplied by from foreign sources. So as opposed to the large or common understanding or public understanding that we have so much gas and then...
yeah, because I mean, even our gas reserve hit 206.53 trillion standard cubic in June. And last year it was 203, now it's 206 plus. So we're wondering where are they?
Yeah, but it's not the same thing. You see, that is your reserves. So this is proven reserves. The proven reserves is a way different from your production, okay, gas in production. So in production, really, yes, we have over 4 million tons of LPG produced annually in Nigeria, but most of it goes for export. But the portion of it that goes for export is a propane portion of it, because LPG is classified between butane and propane. In Nigeria, the spec of LPG, specification of LPG that is approved for domestic use is the butane spec LPG, all right, because of its pressure rating. As a result of that, the producers will have to find use for their produce, all right? So they'll find a market for their produce, which is propane, and they export propane. As a result of that, you then have to import butane to augment the domestic supply. So we have domestic suppliers, but the domestic supply has not really met the consumption.
What's the percent? I think it's about 40%?
Yes, about roundabout, 40% now. And for a market that's a market size of 1.2 million tons, as I'd say first quarter of this year, we have the biggest supply.
1.2 million tons daily?
No, per annum. Per annum. All right. So that's where we hit the 1 million tons consumption target in December last year. But we've since moved because the awareness for the clean cooking fuels has really grown amongst Nigerians. Yeah. And so we've seen back to back. Also, coupled with the fact that kerosene, which used to be the replacement fuel, all the alternative fuel, is no longer really in supply. So as a result of that, there's been a spike in the demand for cooking gas. But there's not been a commensurate match, all right, in domestic supply for cooking gas. So that's why there has to be augmentation with imported products.
All right. So there's been, talks about NLNG being the cause of this problem. What do you think?
No, rather, NLNG is actually a solution provider, and NLNG should be commended for what they have done for the market. Had they not been a critical player, supply player in the market, it would have been worse. Perhaps other major producers need to do what NLNG is doing so that we can see improved domestic supply. Now, NLNG has maxed out his supply capabilities. they have over just around about 450,000 to 500,000 metric tons of LPG, propane, butane spec LPG in production, and all of it is being pushed into the domestic market. So there's really not much they can do
Because there was
anymore.
the accusation
Yes.
that it's because they're exporting more, and so the Nigerian consumer is competing, you know, with the exporters.
No, that's not correct. That's not a correct allegation at all. The truth is, the LPG that is exported in today out of Nigeria is propane spec LPG. And now NIS 555 is the standard for the domestic fuel, okay, domestic cooking gas that has been approved by industry. And don't forget, it's industry who will come together with the regulators, SON, to say, look, this is the standard we want. Bear in mind safety and many other factors, okay? And NIS 555 standards as we have today speak to propane spec, butane spec LPG, as opposed to propane spec LPG. So all that propane has to be exported. Now, what we need to do in the industry is to come back together to say, well, we need to find domesticate supply, all right, by reviewing our standards. If we review our standards, then allow the producers to free up those molecules, rather than for export, but for domestic purposes. Otherwise, they were to supply that cargoes, all that propane into the market, it means they're supplying off-spec into the market. So I think it's time has come for the industry to come back together and review the standards.
So that part of those exported can
come back into the market. And now,
but what are the dangers? Because I'm sure there must have been a reason, you know, for there to be a standard to say this is the part we want to use. If we want to use the bretane, you know, there must be a reason. So what are the risks?
Fantastic. Now is the pressure rating. Now we have NIS 69. NIS 69 speaks to the standard for cylinders in Nigeria, all right? And those cylinders are designed to propane standard, which means very high standard according to global standards, which means they can take propane or they can take butane. Propane is higher pressure, all right? And it comes to higher pressure. In other climes, let's say in the North America, you have them using more propane because it's colder climate. So with cold climate, propane high pressure will work. But in high temperature regions like what we have in Africa, in West Africa, you use more butane because of the temperatures, okay? But we then have issues, however, with proliferation of illegal cylinders. With illegal cylinders, if you have in your house today a cylinder that has multiple welded joints, just know that you have that's
another story.
Substandard cylinder in your house.
Oh my
so
God.
if you then push in propane into the market with all that number of substandard cylinders, it means you're creating a disincentive for users to use gas.
Some of these cylinders are over 10 years old, and they have like an expiry date of some sort.
To be honest with you, it's not so much about the age of the cylinder, because always there's requalification after every 5 years, okay? So that's not the big problem. The big problem is where you have cylinders that ought to have one welded joint, for example. If a 12.5, anything, cylinders from between 3 kg to 12.5 kg, 25 kg ought to have one welded joint, circumferential welded joint. Right. But today you see cylinders with multiple welded joints, which means it's panacea for danger. It's just, okay, explosion waiting to happen. So if you then have a high pressure LPG in those cylinders, you are then creating a potential issue. So what we need to do is to rein in all those bad and all those substandard cylinders, that we can review our LPG specification for domestic applications.
So is there a way to check this thing up? Because a lot of those cylinders are painted. So does that cover up these multiple welded areas? Or is there a way, if I'm watching at home right now, can I just go and check and say, this cylinder is a safe one, or is
yes, there's a way. Even if the painting you see on the cylinder is color coding, it's just to differentiate between marketer. So this is my cylinders, this is this marketer cylinder, this is that marketer cylinder. But the welded joint is very, very visible. You see the welding around the circumference, like the middle area of the cylinder.
The middle area.
The middle area of the cylinder, all right? And then, but the 50 kg cylinders are allowed to have multiple welded joints, like 3 welded joints. The top end, the bottom end, and the middle end. All right? The top, all right? No, the vertical, and all right, and the circumferential one. Okay. Whereas the the 12.5 kg cylinder is only allowed to have one welded joint. Now, if you have a cylinder in your house, take a look at it. If it has more than one welded joint around the middle part of it, it means you have a substandard cylinder in your house.
Go and check.
Yes, so it's good for us to check.
Yeah.
Because
very
what we need to
important.
do, rein in those bad and those substandard cylinders, and then review NIS 555, all right,
Okay.
to accommodate a different, alter the specification a little bit to accommodate more propane in our domestic LPG mix.
Okay.
Once that is reviewed, then we can then free up all that export molecules back into the country, and then that substitute allows
okay, so
for,
we will still keep you here, Mr. Nuhu. We need to go on a short break now.
That's fine.
Because we would also like for you to help us to understand, isn't there a way to even increase the propane? You know, do we have to go through all of this? Because we talk about a lot of gas flaring and it being a waste.
Wasted,
You know, is there a way to capture that into the market and consumption? But that'll be right after this break, so do stay with us. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll conclude this conversation. Tell us about this issue of gas flaring. We've heard many conversations that there's a lot of waste going on there. Is there a way to convert this into a consumption, you know, to take care of some of these issues?
You know.
Yes, yes, there's a gas flare down commercialization program ongoing, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and then it's actually the contenders for these gas flare sites are actively working with government to see if they can capture the flares. But it is very important for us to understand that nobody wants to flare gas if there's demand for it, all right? Or if if the demand side is triggered, so to speak. So there's a latent demand. But how do we awaken this latent demand? We need to, then all of us, begin to, besides the issue of pricing of the gas, all right, we need to equally then awaken what I'll call gas-based industrialization. All of us should take ownership of it.
When you say all of us?
All of us, all Nigerians, because Nigerians, we all own this gas. How do we then apply gas to everything we do, all right, from the farmer, all right, agro raw material processing, mineral raw material processing. We need to apply gas to multiple uses. So multiple application of gas will then trigger the demand intensity that is required for the producers to then find the right justification to invest in gas infrastructure.
So we need to demand it more.
So we need to awaken it. So it's a thing of government and the private sector to say, look, what are those factors that are awakening the demand? Is it the pricing? Is it access to market? You know, is it, all the awareness
so let's start with, what are the advantages of switching to this gas? Perhaps if people know the advantages, is it clean energy? You know, is it healthier?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's cleaner. It's potentially cheaper for you. And then it also, even for our country, it applies, it actually reduces the pressure on the naira, all right? The demand pressure on the foreign exchange, which works against our naira, largely reduced. So as a fuel, for example, auto gas, why are we not using auto gas? Why are we in Nigeria lagging behind in the use of auto gas? So those are things we need to do. And if we were to switch, today in Nigeria, we're just 10% penetration for cooking gas, all right? Why are more Nigerians not using gas? Those are what we need to talk about. What do we need to do to get more Nigerians to use gas? So why are 90% of Nigerians not using gas, okay? So the National Gas Policy speaks to those issues. It says every home in this country should be guaranteed a cooking stove, all right? How do we then place a cooking stove in every home is a question we need to answer in a sustainable manner. Right. Why are we not using gas for our vehicles, all right? Perhaps government should do what other countries do, policies to say all government vehicles should run on gas, for a start. All oil companies should run on gas. All financial institutions should run on gas. It's a deliberate thing.
But there was that issue of, converting, some of our cars.
Yes, it's actually ongoing. Okay. But again, the switching cost is not cheap. The conversion cost is high. And then if you want the average Nigerian to procure that conversion kit, it's not going to be...
the incentive.
Yes, so there's an incentive program, however, from the CBN. The CBN has a gas intervention fund, okay? which now has been made available, about 250 billion naira, be made available for the National Gas Expansion Program.
But a lot of times these funds are available, but accessibility
So we're
becomes...
speaking to the issues of accessibility.
Right.
In fact, I just came back from Uyo where we had a retreat to discuss how do we improve accessibility to these funds. So the conversations are going on across all levels, and I believe in a very short time to come, access to these funds will be made available.
What other factors affect the price of LPG?
The other factors that affect the price of LPG will be, say, taxes, levies, unnecessary levies.
Yeah, we have 7.5.
We have at the terminal, for example, very obnoxious levies by associations that have no meaning, no impact whatsoever on gas, charging as much as 25,000 naira per truck, even in some cases 60,000 naira per truck.
Wow.
Now, so government needs to look at those levies, all right, holistically, and then find a way to reduce them so that we can begin to, at least the ones we can take, the ones who have a control of the levers, let us even address those ones. And then the ones that are internationally informed will begin to then look at how we can address them by way of informing our people as to how to identify cylinders that are substandard, so that they will enable the suppliers to push their products into the market, having adjusted the NIS 555 that will enable propane spec LPG.
Well, we hope someone is listening, and we hope something is done about it, because I mean, if we continue like this, normally when it comes to the end of the year, December, things skyrocket, prices skyrocket. So
unfortunately,
are we going to go back to our firewoods and
it's not even an option, because there's really no...
It's not even available.
Yeah, so it's not even an option. So there's a need for everybody to wake up, and then they need to hurry. There's no time to waste.
Wake up hurriedly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nuhu Yakubu, the Group CEO of Bana Energy Limited and the President of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much,
We
Ladi.
appreciate your information and your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.